Jim Campilongo is in the house. I love that stuff when you play like that, man. Really inspires me. In fact, I did an arrangement. I don't think I've ever told you this, but after we'd hung out all of those years ago in New York, I did an arrangement of Alice in Wonderland in that sort of style to practice doing the chords and the wobbly thing. I must record it one day and send it to you. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it is Jim Campilongo in the house, one of my favorite guitar players on the planet, incredible musician, a genius improviser, huge breadth of quality in what he's doing, of kind of country blues and straight ahead and jazz and all sorts of things. And this interview is kind of part of our Blues Immersion series, which is kind of principally based on blues. And Jim and I are going to be talking a bit about tone and improvising, but one of the key things that I think Jim is incredible at is this development of an idea, an improvisational idea from a little seed. So that's the stuff that I want to talk about today. And welcome, Jim, from Buenos Aires. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Buenos Aires, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So where should we start, Jim? Should we start on the musician thing? This idea of, at this point in the Blues Immersion course, the guys are learning a lot of phrases, a lot of the traditional blues vocabulary. And one of the questions that I see pop up quite often is about how do you make it sound like I'm not just like playing lick number 27 and then lick number 13? Like, we all use phrases, but it doesn't sound like it when we really improvise. So what's your approach to breaking out of that stuff?
One thing, I mean, and I've seen instruction about this, and people say, sing what you play. And I don't sing what I play. But when I write, I do sing and record it, and then I learn what I sang. And I think that we're, just a holder, I'm thinking a container of like a vocal thing. So if I was going to demonstrate, like, let's say we got, and I hope this is my looper, I haven't checked it. Okay, A7, so we could go. Anything to write home about, but I started with just, we're in A and everybody knows this, and then that's the other one, a little higher if I just zip through this, but there's, now, if we were trumpet players, people might be throwing roses at our feet, I think sometimes when people are playing lick 9 and lick 14, they're rushing through things like your menu, okay, that's my Jimi Hendrix lick. But again, you could pretend or think about Aretha Franklin or B.B. King or a singer, Otis Redding. So I will also try to answer my phrase. So if you have, that answered it. I mean, there's no wrong answer. One guitaristic thing is that falls easy because the guitar is hard. We could do, that's D, C, A, D, C, A. It's the same fingering, just in a different place. Octave lower. And here. So that's a way to answer. So that's like an obvious question and answer thing, and something that falls really easily on the guitar. And in closing, before Justin rescues me from being a bore, one thing I tell my students, and it's kind of weird, but it really is, if I hear them playing lick 19 and lick 7, and then or I show them this, and they're like, well, what's next? I tell them, well, what's the sound of humiliation? You know, what's the sound of happiness? What's the sound of jumping up on the bed in happiness? What's the sound of embarrassment? And it's one thing I read when I was learning. I really liked Roy Buchanan, and I read in an interview that he was trying to say, help me. And he did things like this, kind of, like I'm still on that A deal, but like, you know, things like that, that weren't necessarily musical, but really emotive. And I'm kind of low because my downstairs neighbor isn't very happy with me, but. And that's just my tone pot. So that's a help me sound. I don't know what happy is. Now I'm kind of starting to play too much. I want to keep it really accessible. But think about emotions and what they sound like, because there's no wrong answer. I've asked people, like, what's humiliation sound like, and they went, and I was like, well, okay, you know, there's no wrong answer. I mean, that might be not my go-to humiliation, and it also makes, like, we've all felt negative emotions, and it's one of the great things about music is you could make a negative thing a positive and use it artistically. So that would be my go-to answer. The first thing is, you know, think of a singer and answer your phrases. Sorry. Of course, right. A million emails.
Oh, we're good.
Okay. That's great. Hello, Justin.
No, man. It's all of those things are amazing. I just want to recap again, because I think those points, maybe they went by pretty quick, but the emulating the singer thing, I think, is a really powerful tool to do. But again, it can be a little bit difficult if you're not really trying to imagine the singer, or if you say, hey, Aretha Franklin, you'd be like, well, I kind of know what she sounds like, but how would you emulate it? And I think one of the things that at least I've tried to do before is how to go at actually playing a phrase that I know they sang. It could be, you know, let's pick a really common one, the R-E-S-E-C-P-T, if I can even spell it. But if you were doing that, you might have. Like, you might pick up on the rhythm of a particular phrase, and definitely when you're doing those, your examples of those big kind of soulful bends or whatever, that's, if you can think of a particular example to emulate, I always think that's easier than just the general idea of it. Well, you know what I mean? That requires more having those sounds in your musical imagination to draw from.
instead of just running some names. Well, I mean, one thing I did, and it might not be the answer because I liked what you did and it was accessible, but I actually sat down with a Billie Holiday record called Last Recording and learned all her phrases, and, you know, and sometimes slowed them down. And they were hard because sometimes if you've ever slowed down saxophone or an instrument that is, I guess, fretless, sometimes you're like, you know, is that note? You know, there's weird notes, but I did learn Billie Holiday's vocal lines. So, I mean, I actually did that. I mean, Otis Redding might be someone, but again, like a real go-to, it would be, you know, G-A, if you're in A. Sorry. Or
there's loads of great inflections going on here, Jim, and it's somebody put in the comments, it might have been Levin, saying this the idea of there's bending and there's playing licks, and then there's the way that you're able to make them sound human. That's not the right word, but it's vocal inflections. And the fact that you're saying that you've been transcribing Billie Holiday, I'm like, yeah, okay, that might go some way to explaining that.
well,
Because you do, I think, I don't even know if you know that you're doing it, like these little subtle things almost on every note, you know.
I kind of have an idea. I might have to give an exercise that I'm backtracking, but I think it's a really important one. And it's just this in fifth position, meaning your first finger's on the fifth fret. Now we know what that is. That's the C scale. 1, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. Now, what you do is you do that in bend. So you have C, then you do a blind bend. Then E to F. And you don't go like this. It's just an exercise.
I think somebody's trying to call you, Jim, I think, on your FaceTime. Or me.
Yeah, my phone is like connected to James, you know, James's MacBook Pro 2.
That's funny. Oh, no. Now we can't hear you. I love technology, hey? You're going to have to hang up on him, Jim, or take it. I can't hear you. Oh, God, this is so funny. Oh, Jim, let's... Okay, no, Jim's off the... Okay, so I'm going to take over for a second and talk about this exercise because it's a real killer one. Oh, hang on, no, that's still going. Is it on my phone?
Yeah.
Oh, dear. It's my phone. It's my phone.
Good. Yeah, it wasn't
It's my phone. It's my phone. I'm like, oh, my God.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine. I'm just like, okay. I feel so embarrassed. Like, oh, Jim, you've
okay.
got something wrong with your phone. It's like, my phone's ringing me to tell me to take the rubbish out. I'm like,
okay. Well, that's until my phone rings. But this exercise is a blind bend. So you don't go, you go, then E to F. Now G to A using all available fingers in their respective positions. Not like this, fourth finger, with each finger behind it helping. Then B, and all available fingers anytime you bend. So it should sound. Now the hard part, if that isn't hard enough, is descending. So we bend up, release, blind bend, then blind bend, again blind bend. So it should sound now that's a hard exercise, but I think guitarists sometimes don't really think about where they're bending. I know I didn't when I first learned. I was like, hey, that sounds great. But one of the advantages is you get a feel for where you're bending. And you could bend and then release it. And I was doing some half step bends in my, like that, because I know what the feel of a half step bend is. And if I would highly recommend doing this, and your playing will improve. I was a little flat, but we all know what this sounds like.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway,
that is a killer exercise. I've tried it before. I can kind of do it, but it's still one that I would need to brush up on regularly to be doing it, like nailing it. So my question on this, Jim, just to dive a little bit deeper on this, is there are other notes, like in the blues, traditionally you've got that like half a semitone bend that you put on the flat third, like halfway between the major third and the minor third, that sounds cool. But you do a lot of other inflections on almost most notes seem to have a little bit of movement on them. Is there a pattern to it, or is it just the feeling of your hands on it and making it sound vocal?
Well, there's a method to the madness, and that's that the first scale I remember when I learned this, I was so happy. It was the greatest summer of my life. And I think I got an amp with a little reverb too. And, it was fantastic. But one thing about this scale is if we look at the chord we're playing over, and that's A7, there's our C sharp, which is the major third of our A chord. And yet the scale that we're shown has C in it. So we kind of have going on. Now, as I progressed, the players that I liked played the major third. I mean, I liked Eric Clapton and, Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page and those guys, more or less, but I really liked Roy Buchanan. And part of the reason was he played his chord tones. Now the chord tones are, if you're thinking, oh, he's getting too theoretical, it's just the notes in your chord. And in this case, it's A7. We have A, C sharp, not C natural, but C sharp. And then E, G, and A. Those are our chord tones in an A7, which is 4 notes. Now, I thought of it as simple triads. And I don't want to get too heady. You could stop me, Justin, and it wouldn't be rude, but I would just think of this A chord as what I'd target with a G because we're playing blues. There's my G, and there's my major third. And it's movable. When I first tried to play over changes, I remember going, okay, I want to play over my changes. Now it's my D chord in A, 4 chord. And I was like, I don't know, that sounds like the Ventures or something. It was unsatisfactory. And it's because your chord tones aren't in this pentatonic scale. You could still play your pentatonic scale, and that C natural is going to sound good. But a lot of times I'll bend up to the major third. Okay, so we had this, and we could go up here, and we could go up here, as I kind of was doing with. Now I'm playing over my blues chords, but I try to center it to where I'd play this triad. There's a D triad, D, F sharp, A. So. And what's kind of weird is like the notes over your D are the notes of your pentatonic scale you've been playing since high school. But the chord tones of a D chord are C natural, passing, chord tone, passing, but that's that. And you could just move anything in D up to E. Okay, and I'm getting a little faint.
Yeah, man. This is fantastic stuff. And one of the things that we'll find, or the guys watching it, the Blues Immersion students will find, is that in 2 or 3 units time we dig right into this. So it's a fantastic like primer to get those get the synapses connecting up there. That hey, there's a thing called chord tones, and we can definitely play outside of the minor pentatonic scale. It's super. Super material, and I like the way that you're looking at it as a visual block. Do you do that with most shapes? Like you've said that like the A you're using here, and then the D. Do you think of the other ones? Like, would you think of the E using the little like D-shapey thing as well? Like, it's a visual thing as much as a sound thing for you?
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's like 3D chess, the guitar.
Yeah.
So. You know, I might think of. D. There's like one other like lick I kind of want to show.
There you go.
And it's got nothing to do with chord tones and nothing to do with anything, okay? But again, if we're in A and we just play it with our fingers, and remember that I really believe in that. I know people don't want an exercise, you know, but it helps if you do that. And all it is this. So I skipped the second string. I did A, then fourth finger played E flat, the blue note, which was illegal, then 3, 1, 3. Now do that with bending. So a lot of guitars overbend there, and you got to find it and find the note. You want to play that. I just bent up to that. And I'm not using a lot of vibrato. It isn't, you know, it's, and, you know, we could talk about this during tone, but it's where I'm picking. So that's just a little lick to work.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's a great one. Now, Jim, there's been a couple of questions pop up in the chat about this, so I think it's a good time to dive into this a bit. I know your setup is super amazingly simple. There's a guitar and there's a Fender Princeton, if I remember it. That's a Princeton, right?
Yeah.
And a cable. And I remember going to your place going, well, you know, where's your pedal board? And you're like, well, don't need a pedal board. And I'm like, what do you mean there's no pedal board? But Jim, your mastery of tone from that combination of gear is unbelievable. And I spent a good couple of years after our conversation where I only played this and a Princeton that I bought just to try and get some understanding of how you were able to go from like soft round jazz sound, fiddle a little bit with the guitar, and then suddenly you'd have this like crunchy as anything rock kind of, not like heavy scoop mid thing, but you know, a crunchy sound. And can you talk a little bit about how you think of tone and how you're adjusting your guitar? Maybe touch on the Roy Buchanan crying technique on the tone control as well, but
Sure.
just the way that you're playing in the middle of the neck, up against the bridge, adjusting the tone, adjusting the volume and the pickup selection. It's like, whoa, hang on, that's so many different tones you pull from that thing.
Well, thank you. You really, you know, honor me, sir. But
Oh, dude.
so I did use a pedal board in the 80s, and when I toured a while back with a singer named Martha Wainwright, I used a pedal board. And I do miss having like a distortion unit sometimes, like, you know, if I hear or see Jeff Beck, you know, or somebody like that. A lot of guys, like, I love that it compresses and, you know, it's a very seductive and attractive sound. But I can guarantee you, you know, if you come see one of my gigs, I'm not going to be bending over the first 4 songs, like trying to dial in a sound. And it was hard to wean off that. I used to use 2 Fender Twins in stereo. I had an effects board, you know, and it was great. And it sounded really good. And slowly I weaned down to a Vibrolux and just went straight in the amp. I had a tube driver for a minute, but then I just went straight into the Vibrolux. And I really like, I mean, I'm a little impatient, you know, about like setting stuff up. And I'm really not that interested in like, you know, the 100 fuzz faces that Eric Johnson would be obsessing on. And I name him as an example of somebody who's really, really good. But I just don't want to do that. I would rather play and figure something out, you know, like here, because I think the guitar is really difficult. But one thing I think that is underrated, and that's really obvious, is like, where do you pick? So at the beginning of this, I played. And I would really recommend playing a song with a melody. Now, that was nothing fancy. And again, if I was a trumpet player, you know, people would just say, wow, you're stupendous. And I know we've heard Lenny Breau or Chet Atkins or, you know, Steve Vai, great guitar players that, you know, access every aspect of the guitar so beautifully that, you know, just playing a melody seems lame, but it's one of the things I really enjoy. So I tried to kind of, you know, play here and here. There's all these different sounds, and then there's touch. And there's no magic lick or anything. It's just like, how am I picking? Where am I picking? And that's one thing that is about, sorry, that is me, about, you know, just playing without effects. Like, now, as far as, you know, the more less, you know, a little more impactful things, and I would, again, find a song, any song, a Beatles song, whatever it is, you know, a song with a melody, and just play the melody. Play a melody. But one of the things I like to employ is my tone and volume knobs. I think it helps to be in treble position. You know, it's a little more impactful. And I start from 0 to 10, like, so. And that's my tone. Now, a lot of it is I know where I'm bending, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's, sorry. You know, it's that. It's. So then that's amplified by. Here's a, I'm going to go down to the 7th. And that was nice because I went to the major 3rd. That was G. And I tend to just kind of roll my hand. I think the guy in the band, I forget his name, the replacement guy, maybe Robbie Robertson did it too, but they wrap their little finger, and I don't do it that way. I roll my fingers like this, like a karate chop. And the trick is reaching the string. And I would say just play a major scale. I'm not so great at the lower strings, like, but you know, like that. I mean, or just work on the first string. Sorry. You know, go up the first string, a major scale. And the same thing goes for my volume, which I used to use exclusively, but now I use the tone pot. One of the reasons is because I can hear it if there's cymbals going. Like here's the volume. Which is pretty effective right now. I don't think that was that great, but if somebody's playing a cymbal, sometimes you don't hear the decay, or what's the opposite of decay? The magnification of the note. If that's, it's lost, but with a tone, you hear the initial note. Sorry, here I go. Sorry, I'm on a movie thread now. That's all me, guys, talking about the movie Nobody, which I've seen with Bob Odenkirk. Anyway, now, again, one of the reasons I switched to a Telecaster many years ago is I played a Strat. And I love that Strat. I still have it. It's a 62 Strat. I think Justin has seen it. But I was really bummed out by the tone control. It just didn't do anything. So I had it, to me, it didn't do anything. So I had it disconnected. I just didn't even want to deal with it, because sometimes I'd be play half a gig and be my sound isn't right. Then I'd notice my tone was on 5 or something. So I just had it disconnected. But on a Tele, it's really, that's nothing. That's all on. It's really impactful. And so that's one thing I really liked about the Tele, is that both the volume and the tone were really impactful. So, and that's kind of the story with the, which I kind of have to watch my volume a little bit because I'm in an Airbnb. Sorry, but that's the idea.
What's really funny is I've tried to do this for years, and I've never figured out that you were using different fingers. So I've just been, while you've been talking now, I've just been sitting there doing exactly the same thing, going
that's it.
And I finally got, it's like having the different fingers, not just trying to use the one finger. It's oh yeah, it works. I've got
That's pretty good.
My family's going to hate you for that, Jim.
I would suggest just. I have some verb too. I'm really addicted to it. That's tone. And just go up one string, because it's easy to reach, and you could work on your this. Yeah. You don't need a Jimi Hendrix little finger, if you do it my way. I think I figured that out myself. It was just, I've seen guys wrap their little finger around it. I think Robbie Robertson did, but I'm not a big Robbie Robertson fan, to be honest. I thought I really liked the band, but I never thought, Robbie Robertson was anything to write home about.
Whoa, controversial.
Well, is he?
Just kidding.
He plays some good shit once in a while.
Yeah.
But Roy Buchanan was my guy, and I think it's how he learned. Now I've kind of grown out of Roy Buchanan. If you guys are interested in Roy Buchanan, get his first 2 records. The first one has a black cover. It's a great photo called Roy Buchanan, and it's got a track on there called Pete's Blues, and there's some other really good stuff. Lonesome Fugitive he covers, a song called Cajun, I believe. But it's really good. And his second record's really good too, which is called Roy Buchanan's Second Album. Okay, now a lot of people like Livestock. Not my favorite. And then, thankfully, because I'm in no position to put Roy down because, he was a mentor to me, but he went to Alligator and I felt that he became one-dimensional, and the albums are a little one-dimensional, where those first 2 records, he's still really being like the world's greatest bar band guitarist. And if you go on YouTube and you could do Roy Buchanan Misty, which is from the PBS special, The World's Greatest Unknown Guitarist, it's really amazing, man. And like one of the things that amazed me about him, I'm almost done here, Justin. Sorry for talking so much, is when I was learning, I just thought he was like an incredibly old man, you know. I mean, I was like 14 and I thought, God, this guy's like 31. Like, God, he should be dead, you know. And now I think, wow, what a brilliant young man, you know. Same with Jimi Hendrix and Duane Allman. Like, all these guys were like kind of kids. But Roy Buchanan's first two records are the ones to get. And a lot of times if I do Champion Roy, people get like Playing the Blues off Alligator, and I'm like, oh, great, you know, but it's a little more generic, you know, than what I was attracted to. And part of it was his versatility.
Yeah, I should point out, you've got a fantastic track called Blues for Roy, which I think you were quoting when you first started doing the tone thing. Was that Blues for Roy?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I was like, I know that. That's from Orange, right? Your record. Yeah. So you might want to go and check out that Jim's record, Orange. Jim's got lots of great records. I still really love this Orange.
Yeah. I'm not. I mean, that track really worked out. You know, like it's Blues for Roy off Orange. Back Burner came off really well. I mean, I don't know how often you make records, but you know, you got to make them quick, like, because you're spraying money out of a fire hose that now you won't get back because of Spotify. You know, thankfully they give 200 million to Joe Rogan, so that makes me feel warm and fuzzy. But you know, I mean, but it's harder to get your money back. I mean, how many records does Steve Vai sell? Like some guy like that.
Well, you know, probably quite a lot. So Steve Vai owned Favored Nations, which was he made his own record label. When this is going way off tangent, but
I've been thinking about it.
He started a record label when none of the majors were paying any money, and all of the greatest guitar players all signed to his label. So he has the Favored Nations label, which has everyone on it, like all of the kind of techie guitar players.
I'm aware of it, and he started it though, like kind of
in the 80s.
Spotify, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I wonder, would like, I mean, Steve Vai. That's why I bring him up. Like, he's the creme de la creme. And incredible. Does he sell 100,000 records?
Who know? Now I don't know anyone can tell because there's no one selling actual records anymore.
I wouldn't bet on it. But anyway, so much for my bitter rant. But, you know, you have to make your records quick because you don't want to spend $30,000, $40,000 making the damn thing. And on Orange, we got lucky, and a lot of the songs came out, and Blues for Roy was definitely one of them.
Came out.
That's the happy version of what I just said.
So they do come out. Staying on the tone thing for just a second, pickup selector. Are you generally, for any of the kind of crunchy, gritty stuff, you're going on the treble pickup, the bridge pickup, and then the neck for the kind of the jazzier type things? And are you using the volume control other than being for a swell effect? I'm assuming you're adjusting it to alter the tone, like backing it off a bit to get a cleaner sound and all of that.
I've seen video of myself and I'm completely unaware, but I will say one thing that my friend and great guitar player, Luca Benedetti, brought to my attention, that I never use neck position. I only use middle and treble. And one of the reasons is it's less traveling like this. That's like sometimes you only have like a second. I don't know. And to me, like, they sound kind of the same. That's middle. That's neck. There's a little difference. But, and, you know, I think Eddie Van Halen just had like one pickup and one volume knob or something. And I could see myself doing a 2 pickup version, but I just use middle. Sorry, my reverb just went out. There, it just came back. No, it's too much. Sorry.
Sorry, Jim.
Did you just say?
Is everything good? You just vanished.
Oh.
Are you back?
I said, did you say too much reverb? Because there's no such thing as too much reverb. That's like.
I did see. That's a sentence I rarely say.
Yeah.
But and that's middle position. And I think I have no. My treble's all the way up. It's usually a feel thing, you know. I mean, I've been playing a telly so long, but. You know, that last chord kind of clunked out, but there we go. And that's middle position. This is treble. Now, one thing I think is a lot of guys, like I think you're not a telly player unless you use treble position. These guys, like, they get a telly and they never use treble position. And I think that's weird. And they're called telly guys. But I think you're only a telly guy if you use treble position with your other positions. Mm-hmm. But if you're a telly guy and you're only in neck position all the time, you could be a great guitarist, but you're not a telly guy. Mm. For example, I think Les Paul was a telly guy. And Les Paul's name is Les Paul, you know, but, you know, he would... You know, he did like telly-esque things with a telly attitude. I mean, if we really go full, you know, force onto like attitude and attack and humor, like Les Paul had some humor, but he played kind of like a Telecaster, I think. And when I see sometimes on these lists, like name your 5 favorite telly guys or whatever, like, sometimes they name guys and I think, wow, he owns a telly, but he's not a telly guy.
There's definitely something to do with the attitude of Telecaster players. But again, I would have put Jeff Beck down as a telly guy, even though he played telly early on. But he was more famous for playing a Stratocaster because tellys don't even have a whammy bar, which is his thing. But his attitude was a telly player, right?
I mean, I agree, but Jeff Beck could do no wrong. I mean, I'm still in awe of him. Like, he just kept getting better and better. And when I see him on YouTube, I'm just like, oh, I should play a Strat with a vibrato bar. You know, like, I mean, it's so expressive the way he uses it and interesting. I mean, he is just one of the great guitar players. I mean, and he kept improving, which is kind of amazing. When we were talking about the major third, you know, 10, 15, 20 minutes ago, whatever it was, I mean, some guys don't ever do it, you know, like Eric Clapton. I don't think he really plays major third, you know, he stays in the pentatonic thing. Even though when I saw the Cream reunion video on YouTube, I was like, yeah, he's, you know, interjecting some new life into this music that he didn't have when he was, you know, in 1968 or whatever it was. But Jeff Beck just kept getting better, man. I mean, I saw him do Sleepwalk on YouTube and it was like, I can't touch that. How is he getting so much better?
I think I don't want this to go into a massive Jeff Beck fan episode because I'm also a massive fan and I 100% agree. He just grew and grew. And I saw him a bunch of times live. He used to play quite often in London and I always make sure I went to see him. And I think it's because he was always pushing it. He was always going off in these solos that you're just like, oh my God, where's he gone? How's he gonna? And sometimes he didn't make it. He fell off the skateboard sometimes and he'd go somewhere and it would just kind of fizzle out. It wouldn't quite reach it. But it didn't make any difference. It was beautiful to watch the process, the pressing on all of the edges, like always stretching it somewhere. And I guess if you do that for your whole life, then you end up being Jeff Beck. I guess that's my, you know.
Yeah, I saw him a few times myself, and one time he opened for the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and it was the Blow by Blow tour. And he had Max Middleton and Mahavishnu Orchestra opened for them, and they just like blew him away. Like,
Wow.
I mean, and I'm talking as a Jeff Beck fanboy here.
Yeah.
Like Jeff Beck came out and he was just like bummed, like that he followed this incredible thing. Like, I mean, I had never seen any. It actually changed my life. Like I was like 15 or 16, and
Wow.
the Mahavishnu Orchestra came out, and it was just like, And then Jeff Beck came out, and that's one of the greatest instrumental records ever, I think. But anyway, we don't want to go down a Jeff Beck.
Okay, because before we run out of time, I'd like you to have a chat about something that I'm sure a few guys watching so far would have been like, what on earth was he doing there? And that's your playing behind the nut thing, because you were doing some of the bending thing, including something I hadn't heard before, which was amazing, which was a descending chromatic line behind the string. I was like, hang on, he's not just got one, he's doing like two, like a tone down and then releasing it exactly a semitone, and I'm like, man, you can't do that. Tell the boys and girls what on earth you're doing there.
Okay, well, first off, I started out slow, okay? And we'll start out with a lick in E, and it's just, which is a little out of tune. You guys know that, right? And I saw Roy Buchanan do this, and he went. So G from behind the nut bent up a half step to G sharp. So it's, sorry. And I did that for about 10 years. Now, after about 10 years, I thought, well, I'll try it closer to the ceiling. And that's the D bent up to D sharp, and then open B. So we have E and B. Sorry. I just want you to hear it. Okay. So when you do that, make sure you're not right next to the nut, and make sure you use first finger and only first finger. It's going to hurt. I don't want it to, but it's going to. So that's like two chords you're playing, there's A7 and all that stuff. Now, I gave a lesson to a guy last week here in Buenos Aires, really nice guy. Diego was his name, and he's a professional guitar player. And he came over and he wanted to know my behind the nut stuff. So I showed him this, and he could kind of do it. But he had 12s, 12 gauge. I use 9s, and I could do this on 10s. I could probably do it on 11s because I've been doing it a while. But yeah, more movie tech. Sorry, that's me. And I asked him, and I've never asked anybody this. He was like, "Oh yeah, I can't," because I showed him this. That's D to E. That's a hard one because it's your fourth string. And I'll show the lick Justin asked about in a sec. And I asked him, well, you have 12s, I have 9s. What can you do that I can't do because I have 9s? And he thought, and he said, well, I guess I'll sound better. And I said, and I don't mean to seem conceited or anything, sorry, that's me. I don't mean to sound conceited, but I said, don't I sound good? I sound pretty good. And I have 9s, he has 12s. And I said, well, what can you do that I can't do because you use 12s? And he said, nothing. So if you're using 12s and you can't go, that's D to E. He couldn't do that. And he's a good guy, and I was rooting for him, but he had like super heavy strings, man. There is an advantage if you do something like this. There's more string. Sorry. Yeah, these text things drive me nuts. But, you know, use a lighter gauge if you can't do it. Now, one of the things I do, that's E to D. Now, over A7, that's going to sound pretty good. Now, I did that chromatic thing. But if I'm in C, and I'm going to give you a C chord in a sec, and a G7. So that's C to G7. That was that same E to D. Okay, I've been up to F. Sorry. So E to D could be many, many things in many, many keys. And I use basically a lot of the same moves. Again, my finger has a little crease in it right now from doing that. It doesn't hurt because it's calloused. And I did it when I first started going for it, like this, which is a lick Justin asked about. I think I did, that's down to open G, then I did D, E flat D, then let me shut this texting thing off. Hopefully that'll do it.
That is so funny. What did you say? It's a movie thread. Everyone's
Well,
discussing
now it turned into a gig thread.
Oh.
I mean, it's, you know, and can you play in October? Can we rehearse? And that'll be endless.
Yeah,
so I just shut it off. But the lick I just did, sorry for the distraction. So that was E flat D. Then I did probably, you know, and I'll hit harmonics and bend around. Like that E to D to E thing, I did a harmonic here on the 12th fret. And that was over the C to G thing. So I'll use harmonics and gussy it up any way I can. But the way to start is slow. And if it really starts to hurt, just stop. And that would be like my A7.
I have tried that, and I will warn those at home, like, just be careful when you start, because it can really hurt. And if when Jim's saying stop, like, just stop for the day and then come back to it the next day.
At least,
later. Yeah.
At least a couple days. Like in this case, pain is not gain. No. Every now and then, like every couple years, like I'll do it and the string will go under my fingernail. Yeah, it's like some kind of torture thing. Like every couple of years I'll miss it, but you know, I go there first. Like I don't hammer it on. I'm there. It's there waiting. And those are whole steps and they're hard. That's the half step thing, kind of bad.
I'm going to get back into doing that. I haven't done it for ages. I used to love playing around with that, but I somehow missed it. Okay, Jim, we're out of time, but there's been a few questions that I haven't noticed. Can you do us a couple of minutes for some quick Q&As?
Sure, I'd love to, as long as you need.
Okay, let's start at the top. So we got there. Hi, Jim. What do you think about using dissonance or notes and chords that don't fit to express angst or pain, What's the best way to go about that? Ooh, big question.
Well, funny. A lot of times I'm at a gig and people come up to me and tell me like, "Wow, you're so weird and dissonant," and I always go, I'm just trying to play pretty," and I am, But I will say, like, I'm gonna try and answer the question, but I'm gonna go off a little bit. That when I learned, to me, it was like I was a comedian. And if I heard a comedian, I wouldn't tell his joke. Like I wouldn't go up on stage and say, "Take my wife, please." Like that wasn't my joke. So if I learned a lick, I would change it. Otherwise, I couldn't play it. I mean, I'm not saying I'm totally original and now I'll go, I'll play something like that and everybody in his breath. That's a "Take my wife, please" lick. But I would try to change things like, something like that instead of going, which was to me like somebody else's joke. And a lot of times I really dug like what it was, like Hendrix's machine gun solo, like, man, with Band of Gypsies, what a great solo. And I would try to kind of figure it out, but I don't know. I just wouldn't do a Jeff Beck lick like verbatim. So sometimes like what I'm doing is not very Joe Bonamassa. And I think that, people might take that as weird and dissonant. But I think there's a time and a place if, let's say, you're going to try and say, "Help me," it wouldn't be over Alley Cat, or Somewhere Over the Rainbow, even though I try to convey something on that. In a lot of ways, I feel like an actor who needs motivation. And I'll think, what's my motivation? For example, on Orange, which we were talking about, I did "When You Wish Upon a Star." Sorry. Shit. I think yeah. Okay. So my motivation on that, and that's like, then I do it an octave lower. I really like to hang on that. My motivation was, this guy's not getting his wish. Like, I didn't play it like, "Oh, life is grand and we get everything we want," and so that's how I played it. And I kind of did the same thing with Over the Rainbow. I thought, maybe not as effective, but I will try and come up with like, what's my motivation, instead of playing more like Joe Pass, which I wish I could. I'm no Joe Pass and I'm not putting him down, but sometimes a guy like Joe Pass will play, "I'm miserable in autumn in New York and life is the greatest thing ever, singing in the rain." And they kind of sound the same to me a little bit. And I kind of think, well, what's my motivation? I look at the lyrics and think, okay, what's being conveyed here? And if being conveyed is something I disagree with, then I will look for some other kind of motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Did that answer the question?
It does, in a artistic way that actually is the truth. Yeah. They're back.
I can make October, it's
Okay.
like.
Okay, I got two more questions for you, Jim. So
I love it.
Tanmay says, "What is your inner mind map when you improvise? Are the pentatonic boxes the home base? Like, do you use a pentatonic framework or do you frame it on the chord shapes?" I guess is the question. That's my guess, is that you're a chord
Kind
singer.
of both, really. I mean, I think of it again just very melodically. Like, I'm a melodic player, I'm a melodic listener. Like, I like the Beatles way more than the Rolling Stones. Like, I don't want to offend anybody, but fixing a hole, or even everybody's got something to hide except me and my monkey, just completely kicks the Stones' ass. I do like Sticky Fingers, but I'm a melody guy. So a lot of times I don't think in terms of pentatonic or chord tones. Yeah, October's great. I will think of just melody and what answers that melody. So that was pentatonic, but I thought, answered it. And so there's no real wrong answer. But to answer the question specifically, and I wish I could be more help, but probably both.
I think that's a legit answer. Okay, last one. It's from Mr. Fifth. He says, Jim, how much did you over the years practice chords and scales in a traditional jazz approach? Is there a way you did it different? And would you call your way to practice, what would you call your way to practice chords or scales?
Well, to this day, I pretty much still practice jazz. I mean, I'm not going to learn, a Rolling Stone song, for example. I mean, I probably should, but everything I practice is nothing what I play. And I've talked to other musicians. Dan Reeser, the drummer I work with, does the same thing. He learns like Jack DeJohnette, transcribes Jack DeJohnette, and Sergio Verdinelli does the same thing. I'm like, yeah, I'm always working on jazz and I rarely play it. I get to the gig and I'm like, and I might, come up with some kind of nice voicing that is jazz inspired, but so I practice jazz, but I make sure they're songs I like. Like, I don't learn Stella by Starlight because I have to, or I'm supposed to. I don't learn jazz songs I'm supposed to. I learn a jazz tune if I like it. Like, I like Deep Purple, the song. I really like this one. I can't remember. Da 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 da. So if I do it and I try, I end up just thinking, well, I want it to be in thirds, and it ends up not sounding like John Scofield. I wish it did, because I think he's great. It ends up sounding more like Chet Atkins or some guy like that. But I generally do practice jazz. If I play over the changes, it's arpeggio based, so it is chordally based. I'm not the best guy in the world to play Stella by Starlight, which is a more modal playing. Steve Cardenas, who I made a record with, who's great, plays modally, where I play more arpeggios, which are chord tones. I mean, this is an arpeggio. Elvis Presley, right? That's an arpeggio. It's single notes that are all chord tones. That's an arpeggio too. And I got this book about arpeggios and I learned all of them. This is like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And to this day, I still play very much using arpeggios. So I'm a better swing player than I am a bop player. But if that answers the question, and I love the questions and I love being with you, Justin. Thank you.
Did you ever practice like running scales and modes and stuff like that? I'm just curious, like, was there a point where you went, yeah, I really should learn this shit, and sat down and tried to dig into learning the altered dominant scales to play over a 2-5-1 or that kind of thing? Was that
Not
part of?
really.
No.
I mean, kind of, like I don't play any exercises that are ugly. Like I don't do like that one, which is a good one. Once in a while, I will have somebody do that if they can't, up down pick, but I'll do. That's more my speed, and I do those every day. So that's progression. There's 2 more minor keys, and then I go up in half steps, and I try to remember what I'm playing over, but I generally don't. I mean, if that's doing what you said, yeah, I did that, but I generally will play things that I thought sounded good. That's why it changed my life when I got this arpeggio book, because that a few years before I didn't know what an arpeggio was. And I tell your listeners that so they don't feel dumb, because man, nobody was more dumb than me. And I was at a session and somebody said, play arpeggios. And I was like, what's that? And I ended up getting this book, and I was like, wow, I really like that, and so I learned arpeggios. It was Jay Friedman's book. I think it's out of print, but if you get any arpeggio book that has major, minor, major 7, minor 7, augmented and diminished in it, there was, and I was like, wow, that's like game day.
Yeah, Jim with his new neoclassical record coming out next week.
Yeah, pretty soon.
Amazing. I should disappear as well. It's getting late here, but the arpeggio thing that you were just doing sounded really great. And to my ear, you were going up a 7th arpeggio and then going up a semitone or a scale step to the next scale tone and then coming down the next arpeggio. Is that right? Like up G major and then down A minor 7, up
Right.
down C, up D minor, up D, down E. Is that what was going on?
Now I can't do it.
Yeah, I think it is.
There we go.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I choked. Then there's
That's a great record. Yeah, a great exercise.
Dorian. Then the other one. And then there's, and I do the 3 minors. And right now I'm a little on autopilot and I'm a little nervous. Then an A flat. I just go up in half steps until I'm up here. Wow. And it takes me about 6 minutes. And sometimes I listen to a podcast or something when I'm doing it. I'm like, so bored by it. But it is like an athletic thing that isn't a total drag. On a good day, I'll be like, okay, what are these chords? What am I playing over? This is progression in Dorian or, whatever it is. Harmonic minor, melodic minor. What are the chords in those? So I kind of think about progression, which could be applied modally, but I generally play simpler music, like more like 1-4-5 stuff, so it's not like I'm going to whip off my Phrygian, run over something that's, sounds like a country instrumental.
Yeah, wouldn't be appropriate. Okay, Jim, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you again, and I'm sure the viewers, students, listeners out there enjoyed this session. It was really great to see you. Let's get another one of these in the diary soon again, so hopefully you'll be back. Have a fantastic rest of your work holiday trip, and Yeah, I'll see you again very soon. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Do go and check out Jim's music if you haven't before, and sign up to his mailing list if you want to go and check him out live, which I definitely recommend. Mostly West Coast now, Jim. Is that you've just been over at East Coast again, right? But
Yeah, I just did a run in New York, and now I'm in Buenos Aires playing gigs here, and then I'll be back in the Bay Area in October, and I have a few gigs there. I play in my own trio there, and I also play with this band Spaghetti. So,
Nice.
I'll be in Portland in December and Seattle in December too. But it's all on jimcampilongo.com. I always say, if you want to keep a secret, put it on my website.
There you go. That's not true. He does a great newsletter that lets us all know where he's at.
I do the newsletter. Yeah, you got to sign up for it, though.
Absolutely.
Do you get my newsletter?
I get your newsletter, man. Absolutely.
You read it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Always like, where's he
you.
at? I keep waiting for you to come over to Europe again. I haven't. You used to
I
go
wanna
to
go.
Finland a bit, right?
Oh man, I came close. If I do, I'll be knocking on your door for sure.
No. We must get that Italy workshop thing sorted out. Actually, once my son's at school a bit and I can get a bit more free time again.
I've been meaning to ask. You have 2 kids, right?
Yeah, a 9-year-old and a 1-year-old. So
God.
yeah, exactly. So it's the 1-year-old now that's
Yeah, how'd you do this?
the great eater of time he is. Anyway. Okay, great to see you, Jim. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Fanny, for moderating and looking after all of the
Thank you, Fanny.
audio mutant and all of that stuff as well. You've all been awesome. Have a great one. See you again soon. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So you can stay there, Jim, 1 second.
Oh,
And
okay.
the stream will